At Christmas dinner, my father stood up, puffed with pride, and declared, "Your sister never borrowed a cent from anyone, completely self-reliant." The room burst into applause. I took a slow sip of my wine and remarked, "Wonderful. Then she won't care about the $10,500 I've been silently covering for her business loan." Her fork hit the plate with a clang. 5 minutes later, the truth hung heavy in the air. Every family has its favorite, and ours was Emily. She always knew how to play the role, say the perfect words, shed tears on command. I used to think it was just luck, but over time I saw her cunning. She was manipulative in a way only parents too proud or too oblivious could ignore. Christmas dinners were always unbearable, but this one hit a new level of ridiculousness. The table was packed, the ham glistening like it belonged in a photo shoot, mashed potatoes whipped to perfection, wine poured like we were toasting something genuine. I brought my own bottle, not out of holiday cheer, but because I knew I'd need it. Mid-meal, my dad rose with his usual arrogance, the kind he wore when he wanted to feel significant. Fork in one hand, glass in the other, he cleared his throat like a stage performer. "Let's toast to Emily," he said. "She's never taken a dime from anyone, purely self-made." The table clapped like it was scripted. Even Aunt Denise, who once loaned Emily $5,000 and never saw it back, applauded like her life depended on it. I just sipped my wine, eyes on my plate. Then I said it. "Great. Then she won't miss the $10,500 I've been quietly paying toward her business loan." The room went silent like someone had cut the power. My dad's fork dropped. My mom's smile froze. Emily's laugh died mid-breath, her eyes boring into me like I'd committed a crime. No one spoke for a solid 5 seconds. Then the questions came, but I didn't answer. I just kept eating as if it were any other meal. My dad finally demanded to know what I meant. So I explained. 2 years ago, when his HVAC business was failing, he came to me in private. Said it was too humiliating to ask the family. He needed help restructuring a loan, said it'd be short-term, promised repayment by spring. Spring passed, then a year, then 2. Not a penny returned. Every time I asked, gently, discreetly, he brushed it off like I was overreacting. Meanwhile, Emily needed rent money last summer. My parents guilted me into sending her $1,200, then $500 for car repairs, then $300 for a lost phone. They claimed they were strapped, too. That same year, they vacationed in Aruba. "I've got all the receipts," I said, "if anyone's curious." Uncle Paul looked like he wanted to cheer. Cousin Tyler hid a smirk. My mom seemed on the verge of tears, but I'd seen that performance too often. Then I stood up and did what I came to do. I thanked everyone for the meal, said I was leaving early this year, that I was starting fresh. No more guilt, no more playing the family bank, no more secret payments to keep the peace. I told them I wouldn't be back for next Christmas. My dad called me theatrical. My mom labeled me ungrateful. Emily lost it, screaming that I was trying to tarnish her reputation. I left before dessert. In the driveway, I lit a cigarette I hadn't touched in months, watching frost creep up my car's windshield. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened. But I should have known they wouldn't let it go. They weren't done with me. And the next time we crossed paths, they'd show up with something that wasn't theirs. 3 weeks passed without a word from them, a record. I figured they were sulking, waiting for me to grovel and apologize like I always had. I didn't. This time I was finished being the silent son, the mediator, the family ATM. New Year's came and went. I spent it alone, by choice, with a good meal and a glass of fine bourbon. For the first time in years, I made resolutions I intended to keep. No more giving to those who only take. It sounded easy, but when your family's been draining you for over a decade, it's tougher than it seems. On the second Saturday of January, around noon, there was a knock at my door. I live in a quiet Denver suburb. No one knocks unannounced. Through the peephole, I saw them, my parents and Emily, standing like a dysfunctional holiday card. My mom held a plastic bag, probably store-bought cookies. My dad had that fake calm he used before saying something cruel. Emily wore sunglasses despite the overcast sky. I opened the door but said nothing. My mom handed me the bag, chocolate chip, generic. "We need to talk," my dad said. I didn't invite them in, but they pushed past me, straight to my living room like they owned it. Emily claimed the big chair, curling up like a teenager despite being 29. My dad perched on the couch's edge, launching into a speech about misunderstandings and keeping family matters private. My mom added her usual lines about forgiveness and moving on. I could sense a rehearsed agenda. Then Emily spoke. "You owe us another chance after all we've done for you." I couldn't help but laugh. She pressed on, saying I'd humiliated the family, that relatives were asking questions. Uncle Paul wasn't speaking to them. Aunt Denise brought up the loan Emily never repaid. My dad's business partners were pulling away. They were losing respect. Then came the real reason for their visit. "We need to borrow your car," my dad said, "just for a few weeks." I thought I'd misheard. He explained their second car was in the shop. They couldn't afford a rental, Emily's was totaled, and my mom needed theirs for doctor visits. My car sat unused most days since I worked from home. He called it a fair deal. I said no, plain and simple. It was mine, bought, insured, maintained by me. No one else was touching it. That's when things turned nasty. My dad started pacing. Emily called me selfish, that word they loved to throw around. My mom asked how I could be so heartless after all their sacrifices. I told them to leave, that we were done. They didn't, not immediately. Maybe I shouldn't have stepped away to grab my phone. Maybe I should have known they weren't finished. But I didn't expect them to actually do it. When I returned, the living room was empty. So was my driveway. They'd taken my car. Just driven off like it belonged to them. I called, texted, no response. Then Emily texted back, "You'll get it back when you stop acting like a stranger." I didn't reply. Instead, I made a different call, one that would shift everything. I called the police. I didn't act right away. I sat in my empty driveway, half expecting to hear my car roll back up. My Civic wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Its absence brought back every time they'd taken something and called it help. Hours passed. I texted again, nothing. Called my mom, voicemail, my dad, voicemail. Emily blocked me. That night I reported the car stolen. The officer on the phone didn't flinch when I said who took it. He asked for details, make, model, license plate, and said someone would follow up. The next morning an officer came to my house. He listened, asked questions, and said something that stuck. "If they don't return it willingly, it's criminal. Family or not." I nodded. I was done letting this slide. 2 days later, the officer called. My car was found, not at my parents' or Emily's, but at a strip mall 20 minutes away, outside a salon. Emily had been using it for a part-time job. My name was still on the registration. The officer said I could pick it up or press charges. I asked what pressing charges meant. He said likely a misdemeanor, maybe a few days in jail, depending on their response. I told him to proceed. The next day they arrested my dad. Emily wasn't there. My mom was screaming at the neighbors' onlookers. My dad stayed silent. He was booked, held for a night, and the judge gave him a week in county, 7 days to drive the point home. When he got out, he didn't come to me. He sent Emily. She showed up the next morning, eyes red, in a cheap hoodie, yelling before I could open the screen door. "You humiliated him. He's our father and you had him locked up like a thug." I said little, just watched her. For once, she seemed less certain. "You think this changes anything?" She spat, then stormed off. But it did change something. Word spread. Uncle Paul called to check in, said he'd been quietly cheering for me. Cousin Tyler sent a thumbs-up emoji. Even Aunt Denise messaged. About time someone stood up. I thought maybe it was over. But I underestimated how much my parents craved control. Because the next time they came, they brought more than guilt. They brought paperwork. 4 days after my dad's release, they returned unannounced. Tires crunched up my driveway at 9 a.m. I saw them through the window. My dad with a thick folder. My mom in sunglasses like she was mourning something. I didn't open the door, just stepped outside in pajamas, coffee in hand. "We need to settle this," my dad said. "Enough damage has been done." He pulled out a typed agreement, likely printed by Emily at a library. It demanded I drop future charges, stop slandering the family, and agree not to involve relatives in our issues. There was even a clause about me apologizing publicly at the next family gathering. I asked what I got in return. "The car," he said. "We'll give it back." Except they hadn't driven it. I pointed to the old Ford in the driveway. "Where is it?" My mom glanced at him. He looked down. "We sold it," he admitted. I thought I'd misheard. He explained, as if it were logical, that they needed a bigger vehicle for my mom's knee issues. Since my Civic was just sitting there, they traded it for a down payment on a used SUV, titled in Emily's name. Then he handed me a check, its amount so low it was almost laughable. "Take it," he said. "Be reasonable." I handed it back, told him he'd just added grand theft, auto, and fraud to the list, and that I'd be calling my lawyer. My mom exploded, saying I was betraying my own blood, trying to ruin their legacy. Then she dropped what she thought was her trump card. "There's a clause in your grandfather's will about family unity. Keep this up and none of us get anything." I stood there, let them talk, watched them leave, still smug, thinking they'd won. But they didn't know what I knew. A few years back, I'd helped Grandpa set up his online banking. Over a few weekends, I organized his files, including a scanned draft of his will. Something about it didn't match the version they always cited. So I made calls, first to Aunt Denise, who'd long suspected something was off, then to Uncle Paul, who'd seen another version of the will at Grandpa's house before he passed. Finally, to Cousin Tyler, who worked at a firm handling estate cases. He didn't have direct access to Grandpa's file, but knew who did, Grandpa's lawyer still practicing. Within a day, I had answers. The family unity clause wasn't what they thought. It didn't strip everyone of inheritance if there was conflict. It targeted specific people who financially exploited family members, forfeiting their share. An addendum, added 2 years before Grandpa's death, named Emily and my dad. The lawyer confirmed it was validated and unchangeable. They had no clue, but they were about to learn. I waited a week before acting, wanting the truth to land cleanly without drama. I invited a small group, Denise, Paul, Tyler, and 2 others who'd seen enough to stop pretending. I said I wanted to clarify things. I didn't mention my parents or Emily until everyone was in my living room, coffee in hand. I laid it all out. The business loan I covered without thanks, the thousands I sent Emily under duress, their vacations while claiming poverty, the stolen car, the fake contract, the laughable check, and their lie about the will. Tyler backed me up with a printed copy of the clause, highlighting where Grandpa's estate penalized financial exploitation, naming Emily and my dad. No one interrupted. It was like they were watching a truth they didn't want to believe. Denise nodded, unsurprised. Paul exhaled, saying, "Well, that's that." I asked them one thing: if my parents or Emily mentioned family unity, remind them the unity was already broken and not by me. A week later, I got an all-caps text from my mom. "You think this is over? You ruined everything. Your father lost clients. EMILY's friends won't talk to her. You destroyed our family." I didn't respond. The next day, Emily posted vague nonsense on social media about betrayal and fake family. A cousin commented, "Maybe don't steal from your brother next time." The post vanished within an hour. 2 days later, my dad left a voicemail, his voice quiet, strained. He said he didn't realize it had gone this far, thought I was bluffing, and asked me to take the high road. He sounded diminished. I didn't call back. The final blow came from the family lawyer. 3 weeks after the meeting, the estate notified all beneficiaries. My dad and Emily were cut from the inheritance, each losing over 6 figures. They tried calling, showing up. I ignored them. Emily left a letter in my mailbox. I tossed it without reading. It wasn't about vengeance, it was about peace. And for the first time, I had it. 2 months of silence followed. No calls, no texts, no fake apologies. I'd moved to a new place, a quiet second-floor unit, new locks, fresh start. I wasn't thriving, but I was breathing. I was seeing someone casually, work was steady, and I was sleeping through the night. Then one Thursday morning, I stepped out with my coffee and work bag, turned toward the parking lot, and froze. My car was gone again. I stood there, thinking maybe I'd parked elsewhere, but I always used the same spot. I called the city, no tow, called my insurance, no repossession. Then I knew. I checked my neighbor's security footage. At 6:42 a.m., my parents' old Ford pulled up. They used a spare key I'd forgotten existed, popped the lock like it was routine, and my dad drove off in my car like it was his. I called the police immediately. The same officer answered, sounding weary but unsurprised. "Press charges again?" he asked. "Absolutely," I said. They found my car within a day, parked outside a strip mall near Emily's apartment. She'd been driving it, despite it being mine, registered and insured by me with a court history. They didn't even change the plates. My dad was arrested again, held for a full week without bail. My mom and Emily stayed away, but the real shift came after. Paul and Denise reached out, saying they'd had enough. They, along with others, were revising their wills, adding a clause disqualifying anyone who financially exploited or harassed family members. 5 relatives signed on, and word spread. Emily found out and showed up at Denise's, screaming about her ruined future. Denise didn't open the door, just called the police. Emily left before they arrived. That was the last big scene. My parents went silent, not from shame. They weren't capable, but because the well was dry. No money, no control, no one left to manipulate. That was 8 months ago. Now I sleep soundly. My locks are changed. The spare key sits in a drawer as a reminder. Tyler and I are close now. Paul sends me books on business. Denise treats me like a son. We have dinner monthly, no guilt, no drama. I still have my dad's voicemail, the one where he begged me to fix things. I listen sometimes to remember where I started. I never got an apology, and I don't need one. The damage is done, but I stood my ground. I didn't cave or buy their love. I wrote my own ending, and it's quiet now, just how I want it. To Denise, Paul, Tyler, and the cousins who stopped clapping for lies, thank you. You showed me I wasn't crazy, just surrounded by people who made me feel that way. Maybe I'll share an update if there's more to tell. For now, this chapter's done.